Now this was one of those pawn shop pickups. Not necessarily a dollar bins film, so it's not gonna go in the dollar bin movies. I'm just gonna put it in like the film files or something. This is Valerie on the Stairs, Clive Barker's little short story that was turned into an hour-long short film. Masters of Horror, that I'm just now learning about, is a sort of... oh, what's the good word for it? It's a mini-series on... was it Stars? Yeah, Stars, Showtime, depends on who has it at the time. Both Stars and Anchor Bay currently have it. Because if you can see on the side here, not necessarily on the side, but back here there's Anchor Bay right there. So, I guess they're the holders, I guess they're the makers, Stars and Anchor Bay, they usually go hand in hand, whatever, it doesn't matter. Masters of Horror has a couple seasons. They're like anthologies of hour-long horror stories, from what I looked up. And this one was pretty good. It was pretty bad and pretty good at the same time. Let's just say I can understand why this was placed in the bargain bin shop, whatever. I can understand why someone would want to sell it, if that makes sense. But it's got a strong cast: Christopher Lloyd, Claire Grant, Tony Todd, from Mick Garris, director of The Shining and The Stand. Now, I couldn't tell you which Shining that is, because if you look here, The Stand was a miniseries. It was a miniseries. The Shining was both a film and a miniseries. So, in fact, I might actually be able to answer this question. I actually have a copy of The Shining. 2 seconds, or rather, one for you. Oh, well, duh, I'm being really, really dumb. Of course, this is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. So, the director here of The Shining is the director of the miniseries The Shining. Like I thought, I just had a little bit of a brain death at the moment. I was like, what the fuck, did he direct the movie? No, of course, no, Stanley Kubrick did this one. Of course he did. I knew that. Back to this. So we have Mick Garris, director of the TV series The Shining and the TV series The Stand, both of which are pretty strong. It's clear to say that the TV series of The Shining is not the superior version to a lot of fans of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, though you might argue that the TV series The Shining is closer to Stephen King's idea for The Shining in his book. So it just depends on which version you prefer. That's who this is, whoever. He directed this. Valerie on the Stairs, Clive Barker's Valerie on the Stairs, whatever. It's exactly 60 minutes long. The budget isn't exactly AAA list, but they did the best with what they had. They had a single setting. This hamburger house, as we can see on the back here, we're going to read the back here, it's called High Burger House, not Hamburger House, High Burger House, a place for unpublished writers to live and work without distractions. But this building is haunted by more than just the specter of failed authors. The ghost of a beautiful woman roams the hallways and cries out in fear and desire. And there is a beast in the walls that owns her body and soul, and now thirsts for the blood of his creators. Christopher Lloyd, Tyrone Lizzo, Claire Grant, and Tony Todd star in this sexually charged shocker adapted from the story by Clive Barker about doomed dreams, rotted imaginations, and the horrific secret that has given life to Valerie on the Stairs. I never read the novel by Clive Barker, but I imagine it's far superior to this little episode. It can't even be called a movie. It's not a movie. It's 60 minutes. Usually a film is like 70 minutes or longer to become feature length, whatever. But hey, who am I to judge by that? It's a film. I would just call it a film. Whatever. Valerie on the Stairs, if you've read the story novel by Clive Barker, you know what this is. But for those of you who haven't, including me, I haven't read it, Valerie on the Stairs is about a washed-up unpublished author who has a bunch of unpublished manuscripts. This is probably released before the times of before the ease of self-publishing happened, with the whole printing presses where you can make a little team. The printing presses, I forget the Ingram Spark, there's that one, there's Amazon KDP, there's a bunch of things where you can self-publish with now, and this was probably made before that stuff. Of course it was. Clive Barker wrote before that stuff came about, because the internet and all that crap. So, publishing your stuff was a bit difficult back then. And so for all these, this is basically an apartment boarding house for unpublished authors to get published, to write their crap with as little distractions from the world as possible. So our hero, what's his face? We're just going to call him Tyron. Our hero, what's his face, goes into this apartment hamburger house to write his story. He meets the landlady. The landlady checks him into the room of a person who recently vacated it through means of self-termination, to say the least. So, what's-his-face, Tyron, enters his little abode and starts to get to work on writing a single sentence of his book, and then never getting any further than a single sentence, because spooky things keep happening to him to interrupt his writing. There's knocks on the door, there's knocks on the walls, there's creaks, there's cracks, there's bumps in the night, there's bumps on the walls. The paintings move, and he's getting all sorts of irritated. And then he hears some noise out on the stairwells. It sounds a little bit like moaning. He exits out to check the stairwell, and he sees a girl on the stairs. Her name she does not give, but she vanishes as soon as he sees her. He goes to chase after her and runs face first into a wall. This noise wakes up a bunch of the other tenants, and we are introduced to Christopher Lloyd and a bunch of other people. Then they're not exactly too happy about, what's-his-face bumping into the wall making noise, so they tell him to stop doing that. And what's-his-face says, I will try to keep it down. So he goes back in his room, starts to do his little thingamajiggies with his typing. That doesn't seem to be happening. More spooky crap seems to happen to it in his room, and then he hears noises outside again. It's the girl, again. This time, she does not seem to be robed in cloth. And he mentions the lack of garmentation on her person, and she says, he took them from me. And we go like, who's he? What's going on? And then we look up into the corner at the top of the stairs, and we see a door opening, and we see a demonic-looking person standing there, beckoning for the girl to go to him, and she does. And she turns to what's-his-face and says, forget about me, don't come after me, blah 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 blah. And of course, he goes after her and bumps headfirst into the wall again, going like, there was a door here! No, I bumped into the wall, ugh! And then, of course, this wakes up Christopher Lloyd and the others, and they're pretty pissed off about this noise-making. And the landlady says, one more outburst like this, Krasowski, and out you go! So, what's-his-face has to watch his noise-making, and he goes back inside. But then one of the other tenants, a stoner dude, invites him to his room to talk. So they talk. And he looks at the stoner dude's manuscripts, his unpublished manuscripts, and he finds one called Valerie on the Stairs. Oh, look. So, this is after, what's-his-face learns the girl's name's Valerie, by the way. And so he confronts the guy on Valerie, and he goes like, who's Valerie? And he goes like, you were looking at my private script. And then they fight and all that stuff. And then he gets pushed out of the stoner tenant's room, and he meets Christopher Lloyd and the rest, and they go like, blah 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 blah. And what's-his-face says, don't you worry, landlady, I'm getting out first thing tomorrow. And so he goes back into his room and starts trying to write again with his shirt off. And then he starts dreaming of the demon dude and the Valerie girl and all that other stuff out on the stairs and all that crap. And then he goes back outside. And he goes back out into the hallway when he hears a scream. He goes downstairs and sees that the stoner tenant has had his spine ripped out through his mouth. And we see prior to this, while the man was sleeping, that this happened in a sort of dream of his, that the demon dude ripped his spine out or whatever, and it actually happened. Oh my goodness, is what... So he takes the script of the dead stoner dude's stuff to read through it, to find out what's going on. And then he has a talk with Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd is the deuteragonist of the story, by the way. After all, he's the other big name here. So Christopher Lloyd explains that he is a washed-up movie scriptwriter. He's only ever made one horror film, and he created the demon. The demon is on a poster on his wall. He created the very demon that killed the stoner tenant, and we're going like, what's going on here? Is this some fan in a suit? And that's what Christopher Lloyd and everybody seems to think so. And so they tell What's-His-Face to stop poking around about Valerie. Valerie doesn't exist. So he leaves Christopher Lloyd in a bit of anger. He goes back to his room, and then we see somebody else die. Some girl dies. Some scene about she created the character of Valerie. Now the demon comes to kill her for some reason. I don't know. I don't care. So another one of the tenants is dead. And now Christopher Lloyd and What's-His-Face have a talk about Valerie and the demon, and the fact that their scripts, their stories, have come to life. These three people are such losers that their imagination, their failed, unpublished, unsuccessful imagination that just bottles up and up and up into a script that they wrote that nearly becomes endless. They don't even finish the story. They just hand it off to each of the three tenants that just keep writing the story. It keeps going on and on and on and on. And they never wrote an ending to it. And then Christopher Lloyd says, well, wait, what if you're the hero that the stoner dude wrote in to put a stop to the demon? And the guy goes like, I'm not some creation. I had a life before I came here. I have all these memories, blah, blah, blah. So they have an argument. And then the noises happen again, and then What's-His-Face breaks down the wall and goes, Christopher Lloyd, what's down here? And Christopher Lloyd says, that's the pathway to hell. That's where he takes his victims. So the two of them go down there, and one of the victims, who happens to be the dead person of What's-His-Face's ex-wife, is not actually dead, and she kills Christopher Lloyd. And What's-His-Face picks up Christopher Lloyd's gun, and he continues going downstairs to confront the demon, who is played by Tony Todd, naturally. And they have an argument, they have a confrontation. What's-His-Face kills Tony Todd, and he takes Valerie and says, we are free now, we can leave, we can get out of here. And Valerie says, no, we cannot leave. We are stuck here in this building, in this house. We cannot get out of here. And What's-His-Face says, that's just nonsense. We finished this story. I finished this for them, and we gotta go. All the writers are dead. So he drags Valerie out to the roof, and Valerie fades away into ash for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because all of the creations of the writers cannot leave Hamburger House, Hamburger House. They can't leave Cheeseburger House. So now the What's-His-Face is standing on the roof, and there's cops surrounding the building saying, hey, get down from there and drop that gun. So What's-His-Face drops the gun, and then he checks his hands, and there's lines of writing. And he opens his shirt, and he sees that there's papers glued to his chest, and he fades away into papers flying in the wind. And I don't know why it took longer for him to just vanish. If he's just an imagination of the stoner dude who finally wrote an ending to the story, if that's true, then why didn't he vanish at the same time as Valerie did? Movie's got a movie, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that was in Clive Barker's thing, that he was the last person to vanish too. Who knows? This was a fantastic little hour here. It is the exact right amount of runtime. These little horror shows being exactly 1 hour are perfect length. They don't overstay their welcome. They are just long enough to get you interested and then get you out. And that's great. I might be looking for more of these Masters of Horror little episodes, because each one is not like following an extended storyline or anything. They're like one-offs by different writers, different directors. There's one by John Carpenter in this Masters of Horror series. There's one by, I think, Joe Dante might have done one, I'm not sure. But there's a lot of people who just came in to do a one-off here, and this is actually a pretty decent series from just watching this, and I'm interested in checking more of them out. Be imaginative, everybody.